Hello, my charmed ones, and welcome back to my channel for another video. I know this is like 3 videos in a row this week, but I did say that I really wanted to support you guys and be here with some helpful content to help you guys manage this transition with like world events. Plus, I feel like this is a good way for me to kind of catch up on content since I have been like MIA for like a month. So yeah, I'm not sure how many days in a row I'm going to go, but I do want to make sure that I'm here answering your questions. And the topic of today's video I thought was important enough and urgent enough that I should probably like film a video and get it up for you guys ASAP. So after yesterday's video, which was all about how to work from home productively, especially if you've never done it before, I did get some questions that were specifically related to preparing for video calls and meetings while you're at home. And I thought this was a great topic that really piggybacked off of yesterday's video. So that is what I want to talk to you guys about today. Now, I have broken down my tips for preparing for like these video calls into 3 sort of topics. The first topic is going to be looking professional on camera. The second is improving your video quality. And the third is preventing unprofessional interruptions. So I've got just a handful of tips in each category to share with you guys. So let's go ahead and jump in with looking professional on camera. And actually, before we get into that, I do want to say that I realize that these are going to be really great tips, helpful tips for people who are working from home for the first time because of, the whole world event thing that's going right now where people are, being sent home to work. These are definitely tips that, anyone could use who is an at-home worker. But I do think that like right now, and I did want to mention this, that I think right now with what's going on, I think that there is a little bit, I want to say a little bit of wiggle room. Like there are going to be some, what I'd say, sins here that will be forgiven, because I do think that like with the state of the world right now, like a lot of people, if you're just being sent home to work for the first time ever, I think that your managers, your coworkers are going to be a little bit more understanding if things are not 100% perfect. But I do think that there are things that we can do, even little things, to put our best foot forward in a pinch in this situation and kind of make the best out of an unfortunately, urgent situation. So I do think that all of these tips that I'm sharing are important, like our general best practices. But if you feel like you're struggling with any of these areas, and there's only so much you can do, I think that realistically, your coworkers and bosses are going to have grace to some extent. So don't get too anxious about this stuff. I think being anxious or worried is probably not the right direction to go with. So like I said, let's start off with the category of looking professional on camera. So the first tip I have for you in this is something we talked about yesterday, which is making sure that you're dressed and presentable during your work hours in case a call, like a video meeting or something, is added to the schedule unexpectedly. I actually had someone yesterday who responded to that video on how to, work from home productively, saying that yesterday was actually her first day working from home and she had already made a few of the mistakes of things that I was kind of giving tips for. So she kind of learned a little bit the hard way, what to do and what not to do. And one of the things was that she was wearing pajamas and there was a video call that was kind of unexpectedly scheduled. So, she had to, I guess, deal with that in a pinch. So always make sure that when you are on the work clock, right, when there are hours of operation that are happening, like for your team, the hours that your team works, any time where there could be a call scheduled, right, that you are presentable to some extent. And like I said yesterday, definitely watch yesterday's video if you missed it. But you don't have to be dressed up in like a suit and tie unless your work really calls for that. You don't need to be like super duper professional. You just don't want to be wearing your pajamas. Like today I'm wearing a sweater and leggings, and this is something that is comfortable for me, but also I don't look like I just rolled out of bed necessarily. And you also want to make sure that you are presentable in terms of kind of like looking your best, in terms of if you need makeup, put some makeup on. If you, need to do your hair, make sure your hair is done. And I think that's a best practice to making sure that you look professional on camera. You don't want to look like you just rolled out of bed. Tip number 2 is to make sure that your background reflects an organized professional setting. Okay, so as you guys can see here in my office, this is where I film. This is my real office. It's not necessarily a set. I have a organized professional looking background. Like I don't have to feel bad about anything behind me. It looks nice. My printer, some flowers, some books, plants, and I've got some prints now finally behind me. It looks professional behind me. So you want to just make sure that you are taking stock of what your background is and making sure that you're in an area that looks clean and organized and professional as possible. Again, kind of harking back to that little disclaimer I left at the beginning, I do think because of the nature of what's going on right now, if you are only place that you can work is in your bedroom, I don't think that that's problematic necessarily right now. Just make sure that you're not like sitting in bed and it's clear you're like propped up on pillows. If your desk is in your bedroom, just make sure the background looks as professional as possible, even and clean. You know what I mean? Even if that's, if there's going to be a bed in the background, make sure the bed's made. Make sure your clothes are picked up. Make sure there's not like personal items all around in the background. If you really can't avoid filming or going on a video call in an area that is maybe very messy or a little disorganized, you can always just make sure you're backed up to a wall, right? Like a plain wall, no one is going to complain about that, right? Just make sure that at least there's blank behind you, or what is behind you looks nice, looks professional. You don't want to be taking a video call like in the bathroom, would just look weird. You know what I mean? So consider your background and what's going to be behind you, behind frame when you're on these calls. Okay. So tip number 3 for looking professional on camera is to make sure you check yourself on camera before you go live for like a call, right? So you can open up your video conferencing app and kind of preview your video and check your framing, right? See what is behind you, see how the lighting is working. Sometimes if you've got like a bright spot, like if you're working in an office that has like a light, like windows, right? I've got like 2 windows right here. If I've got like a shot of like bright light that's like reflecting off something behind me, that could throw my white balance off in a video conference and maybe make me look really dark because it's trying to overcompensate for like a bright spot behind me. So check your video before you go live, right? You could absolutely do that. And if you wanted to take it one step further, it would be wonderful if you could actually do a quick like one-on-one video call with like a coworker or someone you trust, so you guys can make sure that your actual like internet connection is doing good and that your video looks good and the audio is coming through well. So that would be a great idea as well, to just have like a quick call with someone just to check up so you know that everything is going to work relatively well once it comes time for like a serious meeting. Okay. So those are my tips for looking professional on camera. Now let's talk about improving your video quality. Okay. So the first tip for that is to make sure that your webcam is eye level with you. So I am actually filming right now on a webcam, and I'm actually going to show you guys. I'm going to go ahead and touch you, right? So you can see you guys are set up exactly eye level with me. Okay. So I can see you. You're not coming from below. You're not coming from too high above. You want to make sure that the webcam is eye level with you. So if you're working off of a laptop, don't have the laptop just sitting on your lap somewhere. Have it on a desk. Have it on some sort of platform like a riser. I do have my laptop on a riser so that it is lifted up so that the webcam is even with my eyes. If you don't have a riser, have some books. Like we all have books or boxes or something that we can stack underneath our computers to make them higher up so that the webcam is actually eye level with us, right? We don't want to be like, I always just think of like taking a call with someone and the laptop's on their lap and then you get like the horrible double chin angle. We want to avoid that. That's not going to look as professional. It's not going to be the best experience, right? So make sure your webcam is eye level with you. It's an excellent tip. Next tip is to make sure that you are well lit, okay? So you're going to want to make sure you have the lights on in whatever room you're in. And you could also go ahead and open some curtains to get some natural light in just for additional lighting. But we don't want to completely rely on natural lighting from outside. And I will say this from experience, lighting outside, natural lighting can be very fickle. It can be nice and bright and beautiful in one moment, and then a cloud cover can come and you're all of a sudden super dark, especially if you're taking like a call kind of later in the afternoon. Very quickly, it can go from normal lighting to dark, and you don't want to have to rely on that. So definitely consider turning on lights in the room that you're in, using lamps, whatever you need. Now, here's an extra pro tip for you guys if you didn't already know. Here in my office, I don't normally use studio lighting like stand, independent like stand lighting that's focused on me. I just have overhead like recess lighting And what I've done is I've actually replaced the normal bulbs that are in my house, which are normally like the soft white bulbs, which give off that like yellowy hue. And I've replaced them with bright white daylight bulbs. Now, I'm not saying that you need to run out to the store. Definitely don't leave your house if you're, doing the social distancing, like quarantining yourself. But if you are going to be working from home for a while, it is a best practice, I think, to have more natural white lighting in your office space. Number one, it's going to be really great for your video conferencing. As you can see right now, all I have is lighting on above me, and it looks good and natural because it is bright white daylight bulbs above me. But it's also good for your actual vision just working in an office. And I feel like I should have probably mentioned this yesterday. And again, this is a tip, like if you're only working from home for a temporary period of time, maybe it's not as necessary, but especially if you're taking a lot of video calls, it might be worth it to like maybe order off of Amazon or something and have some nicer bulbs sent to you that are like actually daylight bright white bulbs, as opposed to the soft white light that is usually for nighttime. It's a little bit more of a strain on your eyes, and the video quality can sometimes be a little bit more like muddled, right? It looks like a little bit orange in video or too yellow. It's an unnatural effect. So if you want to improve your video quality, something to think about, make sure you're well lit at least. And if you wanted to swap out your bulbs, I think that would be a plus as well. Now, third and final category we're going to talk about is preventing unprofessional interruptions. Okay, so we know we're at home right now working, we're unexpected, we may have children at home, we may have pets at home, we may have roommates, spouses, other partners, other people could be at your house right now also working, right? So we want to make sure that we're preventing a situation where someone is interrupting you and it's kind of going to, ruin a meeting, make you seem a little bit unprofessional, right? We don't want that to happen. So the first tip is about preventing an accidental video bomb. And when I say video bomb, I'm saying like a photo bomb. When someone's walking behind the video unexpectedly, hopefully, they're wearing clothes. I actually had one of my OG followers, Patricia, left me a comment. She was sharing a whole bunch of great work from home videos, tips, especially video conferencing tips. And she was saying, like, make sure nobody is walking behind you like half naked. Absolutely. We want to make sure that we are keeping our video background as professional as possible and preventing those accidental video bombings. So we're going to check this in your framing, right? So you're going to check this when you're doing your framing, just to make sure that your background looks good. And also some additional tips for this would be to make sure that you are in a room by yourself, or that you can close a door, or that you're at least positioned in a way that if someone did need to walk by, they don't walk by your video, right? Just helpful for them and their privacy, you and your privacy, and for the quality of your video conference, right? Now, next tip would be to use headphones for your calls, especially if you have other distractions at home with you, like children, like pets, like other people, right? Wearing some headphones, and like I will show you guys, like I have Apple AirPods. I also keep, just normal Apple earbuds as well sometimes for video conferencing purposes. And what that's going to do is it's really going to help isolate sounds so that really your voice is coming through and not other noises in the background. It'll also help you to kind of be more focused on the audio that's coming from the meeting, so that you're not getting distracted by things around you. It's also a best practice because sometimes with video conferencing, there can be like audio feedback loops, and you can kind of get those like loud noises that are annoying, or static that's annoying. And a lot of times wearing headphones is a good way to prevent that. So it's also going to improve your audio quality as well. Now, the final tip I have for you is to know the functions of your video conference software. This is another big one for preventing unprofessional interruptions, right? Make sure you know specifically where the mute function is in your software, right? Because let's say you need to sneeze really quick, or you need to cough really quick, or it's not your time to actually talk in the conference. I always think it's a great idea that if you're on a conference, even if there's silence around you, right? Put yourself on mute just in case, so that the audio is going focused on the person who's speaking. Sometimes in your meeting software, whoever's running your meeting might be able to mute everyone, but just as a best practice, make sure you are muted. Know where the mute and unmute function is so that you can mute yourself just in case you need to, and then unmute yourself when it's time for you to talk, right? The next thing I definitely think is important to know where it is in your software is the video on and off function. Usually with video conferencing software, you can turn your camera on and off as needed. And so if you need to blow your nose, if you need to get up really quickly, to, get a glass of water, use the restroom, something like that, or someone like a child is running in really quickly, right? You can turn off your video, mute yourself really quickly, deal with them, still have your headphones in so you're like kind of paying attention to the webinar or the class or the meeting, whatever it is that you're on. And no one else is the wiser for you, right? It shows you, it really presents you as the best foot forward, most professional version of you. So make sure you know the mute function and the video on and off, right? Make sure you know how to use them. Don't be afraid to use them. Obviously, you don't want to turn your video off like while you're talking, but this is going to be ways to help you kind of mitigate those interruptions that may just naturally happen while you're working from home, right? So those are all my tips for preparing for a video conference, meetings, and things like that. Obviously, you can use some of these ideas as well if you're doing like an audio only conference, or if you're calling in. When I'm dialing into a call, if there's no video, I always like to keep myself on mute as well, right? So whatever programs you're using, whatever means you're using to dial into these calls, whether they're video or not, know where the functions are so that you can, prevent interruptions and put your most professional foot forward to your coworkers. So I hope these tips have helped you. I would absolutely love to hear if you guys have any other tips for people in this situation. I'm sure I'm missing something. So go ahead, leave me comments, suggestions, out of the box things that you might not think about. Of course, if you are someone who is working remotely for the first time, feel free to share this video with coworkers, friends, family, anyone who might need it, okay? So leave me your messages as well down in the comments for any other videos that you guys would like me to kind of make during this series of me helping you to prepare yourself for, working from home, and anything else you might need to kind of like mitigate, this transitional period. Anything I can do, any wisdom I can impart to you to make this all easier for you and seamless for you and a little bit less stressful, make you know that you're not alone, right? Because you're definitely not alone, even if you are, social distancing. Let me know what you need, and I will do my best to help you, okay? So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!